And welcome into a milestone episode of the Avetts and Beyond. My name is Todd Emanuele. It's episode 50, and we thought we'd go big for episode 50, and we got one of the main cogs in the wheel that we call the Avett Brothers, the manager of the Avett Brothers and CEO of Ramseur Records, Dolph Ramseur is here. Dolph, thank you so much for coming on with me.
It's a pleasure to be here, Todd.
I know you're a little under the weather. I've been a little under the weather
I,
today as well. So pardon us if we start coughing in the middle of the show. But take me back to that very first time that you saw the Avett Brothers and what still stands out to you about that day.
well, I saw them at a place called the Wine Vault
Mm.
in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's very close to. I don't know. For years, it was called UNCC. It's Charlotte University now.
Mm. Okay.
That's where Seth Avett went to college. But it's within a I don't know a quarter mile, half a mile from UNCC, and I my mother she'd shown me an article about like a bluegrass band that had gone across country and on their own, kind of playing street corners and stuff. Then David Childers, who I work with, he had told me about a band from the Concord, Kannapolis area called the Avett Brothers. Um, and I think his son one night in a car went to a radio show. David's son Robert told me about them too. That they had this spirit about them. So yeah, when I saw him, I was with a guy. No, just by chance, I saw an old guy named Brian Snipes that I went to high school with, and a guy named Dan Stone that I went to high school with. And Snipes is probably about the toughest uh, SOB I've ever met. He would be perfect. He I guess was born about 20 years too early. He would have been a perfect MMA fighter.
Oh, there you go.
Um, and I always felt like if I'm in his vicinity, I'm okay if anything goes down. But anyway, so so but yeah, I saw the Avett Brothers that night, and it was I mean it was a celebration. It was a um hard to put into words, really. I remember going home and telling my family I couldn't explain to them what I had seen. And what struck me was really the original songs. They at that time they were doing a lot of cover songs.
Sure.
But what struck me was the original songs that they had, because I think I heard that night like Me and God.
Oh, wow.
Um, a lot of the songs from a Carolina Jubilee and country songs from country was.
Right, right. That's really cool. So, how long did it take after you saw them at that show to get in touch with them? Like, was it years or was it just right
No,
away?
see, I'd already reached out to them, and Scott told me to come up and after the show introduce myself to them, and that's what I did. Um, and we just sort of started a conversation, really, or started communicating. And they let me know that they were working on a record. It was almost finished. Um, and the dates, I like this was in 2002,
Okay.
and I went to go see them at the George Washington Bookstore and Tavern um, in 2002. And Scott let me know that they were going to go with this label out of um, the Triangle area of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Durham
Okay.
area. Um, but then at some point in late 2002, he called me and said, "Hey, that's now not happening.
Hmm.
Can you come over to our property and can we meet with you?" And that's what I did, and we've been working ever since.
Yeah, so yeah, the rest was history. That's a pretty cool break, a lucky break for you, I guess. Because you guys
Yeah,
have been together a long time now.
yeah,
And
but and you nailed it. I mean, yeah, I mean, one of the best things that's ever happened to me, just meeting the Avett brothers. I
And you're
mean,
from Concord, right?
yes, I'm
Yes.
from the Odell community. They're from the, but I'm still in Concord. They were from the Concord, from Concord proper, but from the Mount Pleasant community.
Oh, right. Okay, I've heard that.
So sort of different sides of the county. Um, my side of the county would be more, uh, at the time when I was a kid, the cotton mill was still, we had the largest textile mill in the world in
Oh, wow.
Cabarrus.
No kidding.
Yeah. So they would make 300,000 towels a day.
Oh my gosh.
And,
Did your family work there and stuff or
yeah, both my grandfathers worked over 50 years in the mill. My grandmother worked
wow.
45, and I had
Wow.
so many great aunts and uncles work there too. It was a way of life, and
Right.
it's kind of a bit more folks in my area were mill workers than in the Mount Pleasant was a little bit more of a farming kind of thing.
Yeah. So when you were little, you were into music, you were also into
Oh yeah,
tennis, correct?
correct, correct. So
So tell me about your childhood. What was it like?
yeah, I grew up on a dirt road out in Cabarrus County in the Odell area, and my dad had worked in a cotton mill for a short time. Then, luckily, like the greatest thing that ever happened to my sister and I, he got a job at UPS.
Hmm.
And I mean, never, I mean, it, compared to working in a cotton mill, the job at UPS was, it was drastically different,
I say it has to be like night and day.
night and day,
Yeah.
night and day. So I can't, um, yeah, I can't understate that. But um, so no cable vision, four channels. Radio was a big thing for me, and music was too. And my dad was a big music fan. If Johnny Cash was kind of the North Star of our household,
Love Johnny Cash.
yeah, and but we'd watch Hee Haw, we'd watch the Glenn Campbell show, Johnny Cash, all that stuff. We watched all that, and if Tom T. Hall was on TV, my dad would make sure my sister and I would, you got to come see this. It's Tom T. Hall, or if Chet Atkins or, um, if he was playing guitar on TV, my dad would make sure we would see it. Or Pavarotti, like my dad was a
Really?
big Pavarotti fan. He was a big fan of the Platters,
Nice. Oh yeah, good stuff.
he just loved all forms of music really. And that kind of wore off on me. And so I started, yeah, I just started champion music. It was sort of an escape for me. I think when you're when you're out in the country on a dirt road, and
Right.
you know, I mean, I remember listening to ELO, and it sounded like it was from another world.
It was.
It was. Um,
So I
you know,
assume you had a record player, right?
I did. Well, first I started out with uh, a used clock radio that only had AM, but
Oh
on that
gosh.
that radio, I listened to a station 610 Big Ways, and that was sort of the rock and roll AM, not the pop. So they would play Peter Frampton, Frampton Comes Alive, Show Me the Way, and ELO was being played on there, um, and I remember in about 1979, I got a clock radio. I mean, a digital clock radio. It was the coolest thing. I
It
mean,
it had FM on it?
it had an FM. It had a sleep button too, so you could hit the sleep. But anyway, I remember taking a couple days after Christmas. We were in at the local Cabarrus County dump, and I remember this homeless looking guy with these kids. He comes up to me and asks. We were throwing away items, and I was throwing away that clock radio that I first had because the clock never worked,
Oh, really?
just the AM. And I told him, hey, just the AM works, but your kids might like it, and he took it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got a used Sears um stereo for Christmas one year, and that might have been 81. And you had to put like a nickel and quarter on the turntable to get it to stay in the grooves.
Right.
But it had an 8-track player though, and so my parents gave me the Beatles like greatest
Oh
hits.
man.
Um,
So did that
so
like stereo sound blow you away when after listening to
oh
AM radio for so long? That must have been like, whoa, this is great.
yeah, and then like 84, I got a new Sears stereo, and that was one of the greatest days of my life that I got that new stereo. It had a digital tuner and everything.
Oh man, you were going big time then.
I was going big time. So, but I collected records, and um, I was fascinated by all forms of music. And then, so I live in a town, right? I grew up about 10 miles from Davison College.
Okay.
In Davison College, that's where Steph Curry
I was
played.
just gonna say that. That's where Steph Curry played.
Yep.
I know that.
So, so they had a great station at night. It's classical during the day. Now it's classical 24/7. But
Okay.
in the early 80s to mid to late 80s, it was they had a program called Flip Sides, where in the evenings from 11 to 2 or 3 in the morning, the college students would program and DJ the station, and they played, stuff that when MTV first started, the Police, very alternative leaning kind of stuff.
Right. So stuff that wasn't on their normal playlist, I assume, too.
Correct. It was college radio, and at the time, that's what really broke bands like REM was college.
Sure. Oh, gotcha.
So that station every night, um, I listened to that station religiously. That's how I found out about. I remember hearing 1983. I heard Billy Bragg, a New England on there, and Billy Bragg, if you listeners don't know, but he was sort of this. Um, he'd almost be. He played electric guitar, but solo, and it had this punk vibe about it. But he was a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
And that really I remember hearing it on the radio. And the next day I went into Charlotte and bought it.
Nice.
My mom
Nice.
take me into, because any place in Concord was not going to stock that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but um, I was a massive fan, still am, of Echo and the Bunnymen, and but then I loved like stuff like the Piedmont Blues, like Reverend Gary Davis and Sonny
Nice.
Terry and Brownie McGee, and
Sure.
and but then I got into my best friend growing up. His great grandfather was a guy named J.E. Maynor, and J.E. Maynor was a famous fiddler, a big influence on Doc Watson, and um, kind of a predated bluegrass music, and played for presidents and had a million selling hit. I mean, it really well known in the old time kind of music community. So I loved a lot of old time music. I mean, I loved it all. So, and when I saw the Avett brothers, I kind of felt like they were a mix between something I'd seen in the Piedmont mixed with the Violent Femmes.
Oh wow. Yeah, okay, I can see that definitely. Now, isn't it
So
funny how the music like you listened to growing up, like Tom T. Hall and all that, inspired the Avett Brothers, and here you are, you've been with them for so long, and everything kind of just ties together with music. It's like that for me. I don't know if you noticed that over the years.
yeah, for sure. I mean, and yeah, the brothers, and it's sort of weird. Scott and I will have different kind of taste. Bob and I will have different kind of things we connect with, and then Seth and I will have certain things. Like Seth and I, we really connect with this band called the Fleetwoods.
Okay, I know them.
Yeah, and Seth and I really love singers that don't oversing, that
Mm.
really sing, yeah, very sweetly in a
I
way.
mean, that's Seth.
Yeah, correct.
That's how he sings. So
Yeah,
and you must be drawn to that, obviously.
yeah,
So you were into music, you were into tennis, and then back into music. But tell me about the tennis thing. Like you were
yeah.
like a professional tennis person for a
Well,
while.
so growing up, um, you might. How old are you?
I am 47.
Okay,
I'm 3 months older than Scott.
so in '74, Billie Jean King and a guy named Bobby Riggs played a tennis match. It was an intergender tennis match, and that
Oh,
thing was broadcast around the world. And it's still the high water mark for tennis. That was like tennis, the peak of tennis.
Sure, I remember the highlights seeing that. I didn't see it live. I was a little too
Right.
young. But
That
yeah.
inspired a lot of people, like my parents, just to buy tennis rackets.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
We'd go out and batter the ball around. And then the tennis coach at Davidson College uh, took me under his wing. Uh,
When you were
and
little?
when I was little, and I started taking lessons from him, and that was a life changing thing because most of the people in my world, they were either still had family members working in the mill or first generation out of the cotton mill.
Sure.
And tennis it connected me with a whole new um, group of people and places and took me all over. So it was a really life-changing thing.
And it
Uh,
really almost became your life, right? I mean, you almost did that.
yeah, yeah, I worked at I guess before meeting the brothers, I was only about 2 years removed from working at a country club. So but and then now, I haven't done this in a long time, but I would take out Scott and Seth, even took out Joe some on the tennis court.
This was going
And
to be one of my questions to
yeah,
ask.
so and actually, if Scott and Seth, I got them to a point where that would be a very good match.
Oh, I bet. They're competitive.
Yeah, Scott,
My money's on Seth, though. I'm just saying. That's just a guess.
Seth,
Watching the
you know,
ping pong matches they've had.
yeah, Seth has a little better strokes. Scott is a little bit more feisty and keeps it in play and kind of will get under your nerves.
I can see that.
So but yeah, they both could have been very good tennis players if they would have started as kids. And they've actually, I mean, we've worked on their strokes. I mean, um, yeah, it's kind of, I, in some ways, I'm probably a better tennis coach than, I still know that better than I do music. So it's fun. It's funny.
Can any member of the band beat you in a match, a tennis match?
Um, they would have to have an have an
Gee,
army have an army with them.
we need to set this up somehow. I would love to see this. Like
Yeah,
all of them against you.
yeah. Pete has got a little bit of game. That the
Okay.
our stage lighting. Yeah, Pete's got some.
He's
He's got,
tall.
and
He's
his parents played, so he played some
okay.
as a kid. So, um, but we have fun with it when
That's
we
great.
play.
So you
Yeah,
guys still get together and play tennis every now and again, huh?
yeah. Seth and I more than any of them. We haven't in a while, but I hope to get back out there with them.
Yeah, yeah. So a nice little behind the scenes thing there. All right. So 2018, you were inducted into the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame. Um, I'm from New York, so I have never been familiar with this place. I've had David Childers on my show a couple of times, and we've had conversations about this Hall of Fame. Can you tell me how he's not in the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame?
Well,
What can we do to get him in there?
that's a good question. I do probably need to get him on the ballot where people can vote for David.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh, the Avett community would vote him
yeah.
in. We need to do this somehow.
Well, North Carolina, I always tell people it's why I've never gone to Nashville or New York or
Yeah,
LA. It's the center of the universe when it comes to music.
that's
Um,
awesome.
if you look at, we've got this one little town called Henderson, North Carolina.
Mhm.
I've never even been to Henderson, North Carolina, but I see the sign when I go up 85, when I go to Richmond or DC. It's it's like a near Durham, North Carolina. And
And you've never been there.
I've never been there, but the reason I bring it up is Benny King, who wrote and sang uh, the fourth most played song in the 20th century on radio,
Whoa.
uh, is from Henderson. He's dead now, but he's from Henderson, and it was a song called "Stand by Me."
Oh, well, yeah. That's a fairly
Uh,
well-known song.
then the first number one, all African American female group Um, the Shirelles, Will You
Okay.
Still Love Me Tomorrow?
Yeah.
They had the first number one. They went on to have Soldier Boy
Oh my
and
God, they had so many hits.
they had so many hits. Then her nephew, the lead singer of the Shirelles, her nephew is a guy named Gerald Austin, and he had the song in the 70s, Shining Star with the Manhattans, and they had another they had another massive hit with the Manhattans. That's just out of this little town of
Tiny
Henderson,
town. That's crazy to
North
think
Carolina.
of.
But then, you look at jazz and you got John Coltrane,
Oh
you
my
got
gosh. Yeah.
Thelonious Monk on piano,
Whew,
you've got Max Roach on drums, one of the probably
crazy.
top three jazz drummers. And I mean, it
All from
goes,
little towns.
yeah, Doc Watson, um, Earl Scruggs, as tell people, he's the Jimi Hendrix of the banjo. Um, so yeah, North Carolina it's just such a great state musically. And I always tell people, it's because it's a poor state, so people look inward to entertain themselves. And then it's a very, very Bible Belt religious state. So all these people start singing in the church and playing
Sure.
in the church. So they already have a leg up on most people. Um, so yeah, it's a weird kind of thing. Then you mix African Americans with Scottish and Irish, and it's a perfect melting pot.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Um, let's get David Childers in that Hall of Fame.
yeah, we will try for sure.
We gotta, so all you have to do is like, because you're in the Hall of Fame, can you nominate him? Is that what you said?
Well, yeah, it we can throw his hat in the ring, and a lot of it is what you do outside of this state.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, why though?
well, what they're looking for is, people that have had careers, a 10-year career in music, but it's gone across the world, really.
Okay. Well, that's why you see people from American Idol in there, I guess, then,
Yes,
because it's
correct.
worldwide. I wondered with that, like, how is there American Idol people in this Hall of Fame, but not David Childers, who is iconic North Carolina music? I mean, he's amazing.
Yeah.
And his art and all that too. I mean, there's just so much. So, well, we got to work to do that. I really would love to see him get in there. And he told me he doesn't care, but I would like to see it for him because I think he deserves it.
I
Uh,
do too. I do too, for
okay.
sure.
All right. So I opened up to my listeners to ask some questions,
Okay.
and feel free to answer these if you can. Everyone wants to know, with the Avett Brothers 2024 shows, are they going to announce shows soon? I know we're into January.
Soon and very soon. When does this air?
It's going to air Friday.
Well, I think we will know very soon. That's all I can say.
So that's promising, though, right?
It's very promising. Going to be a big year.
Oh, good. Oh, all right. You just made a lot of people very happy and poorer too, because they're going to have to start planning trips.
Yeah.
But
But
that's exciting. All right.
yeah.
And the album too. Now they've been working on the album. I know that for a while, and they're taking their time, which they should. And I've heard, early 2024, now sometime in 2024. Is that accurate? It's going to come out sometime this year.
If I was a betting person, say yes, it would be coming out this year.
Okay.
So
You can't give me details,
I
obviously.
can't give you details, but I can tell you it's very, very special, and I look forward to y'all lending it an ear.
I
So yeah,
cannot wait. I cannot wait. And
I'm really excited too. So
so I assume you've gotten to hear it. I know you probably can't talk about it, but I've had Jim Avett on the show several times too. And he kind of told me some stuff that I'm not really supposed to say, so I'm not going to say any more than that, but
Right.
he said it's good.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm proud of it. I mean, I don't have anything. I mean, I don't do anything with it except help, but I'm proud that yeah, proud to be a part of it.
Are they working with Rick Rubin again? Because I haven't seen anything of them out there. Or are they just doing it like remotely working with him?
Mainly remotely at this
Okay.
point. I mean, that changes from project to project.
Okay. All right. So that's cool. Okay, now have you heard of Someone asked me this. Janie Lewis asked me, she said, when are you going to pursue and sign the Bernie sisters? I know you're familiar with them.
Yeah, I am familiar. I'm trying to think. Listen, I get so many people hitting me up about so many
I'm sure.
I'm at the point in life where if I work with other or anybody new, or I've got to hire people
Oh,
because
yeah.
I don't have enough
Yeah.
man and woman power to to I mean we're busting at the seams as is.
Yeah. Who are you managing right now? I know there's a list. I did not write it down or have
Yeah,
it.
so we work with Sierra Farrell,
She's awesome.
Amethyst Kia,
She's awesome.
a band called Big Richard,
No, love them.
David Childers,
Uh, Heard of him.
uh, the Heartless Bastards,
Nice.
and a young man out of Virginia, Colby T. Helms.
Yeah.
Um, and so we're really busy, and we work with another band called Spectre Jones. Don't want to forget them. But I've got a staff. I've got a staff of 5 folks, and a couple folks that help. Um, but mainly a 5 team, kind of 5-person team, and
Mhm.
um, so to take on new acts, I mean, I have to hire other people, and
I get
I
that.
don't want to get into I'm sort of in that point where I don't want to get into managing employees. I want to keep managing acts.
Right. Because it's all about the music.
Yeah, I pass on so many great things. But it's just because I don't have time. It's good to be busy. I will never ever complain about being busy again after going through COVID.
Yeah, right. Oh my
'Cause
gosh.
I kept I kept paying all my employees during COVID with no
Nice.
income for a couple of years.
That's great. Not a lot of people did that. So that's
Right.
awesome.
So, and all of them have stayed with me.
How did COVID affect the band? Because I know they did a lot of online stuff, posting videos on Instagram and all that of music, but does that play into like this time off now? Because their kids are growing up and they're spending time with their kids. Is that
Yeah.
like taking priority for right now? And
Um,
go back to COVID? Like that's why they're
I
doing it?
don't I don't think that had anything to do with COVID. I think it's just, you know, it's where they're at right now in life.
Sure.
COVID was, I mean, it affected people so many different ways, and seems like everybody was affected by it, I guess. And um, I was really proud though of the 2 shows we did at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I don't know if you ever caught wind of those.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I am a rather large fan, so I've seen it all.
Okay. But those, you know, I was telling people we were, uh, flying the plane and landing it, building the plane, flying the plane and landing it all at one time. And probably those shows were the proudest moments I've had as far as pulling something off. Um,
It was such a great idea.
yeah.
And you could totally do that again, and I think people would love it even without COVID around, you know? I mean, just how cool. It's like a drive-in movie, but you're seeing the band in person.
Yeah.
And
It was such a great moment because I think it gave everybody some hope. There was a little light at the end of the tunnel that, hey, maybe this is going to be okay. And
there's hope
um,
for sure, right?
yeah. And so one of my employees had over 1,200 emails with that show alone.
Wow.
1,200 emails.
Yeah, I've watched those shows several times. That a lot went into that, it seemed like, but boy, what a successful
Yeah.
venture,
Those are,
both of them.
those are special. But to get back to your question, no, I
Yeah.
just think I think where everybody's at right now. And, um, we've always sort of piecemeal shows together. We're announcing a big slew of dates coming up, and then we'll announce another slew of dates later in the year.
Awesome. That's what everyone wanted to hear. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
before I let you go, we got about 8 minutes left here.
Yeah.
We got to talk about Swept Away.
Oh man.
But
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure to talk to you about this because how cool. I mean, they are so into this uh play, this musical, and it's such a great thing. Now, I haven't been able to see it yet, but I know a lot of people that have gone to like every single show. And tell me about it, the whole thing. It's just
Yeah.
incredible.
So about 7, 8 years ago, a guy named Matthew Maston reached out to me and wanted to meet with me and pitch an idea about taking Mignonette to Broadway,
Mm-hmm.
making it a story. So I met with him, and um, he had a lot of energy and passion for it. And I went to the guys, and they felt good about it. And then Matthew started building a team, and Matthew and his partner Sean Huddock, that we've been working on this thing for it's uh it's been a labor of love, really, and it's really all the pieces are in place to really have great success. It's done massive business in DC.
Yeah.
Like, I think the folks there at Arena Stage didn't know what hit them with Avett.
That's just awesome, though.
Yeah,
Again, I know
awesome.
so many people that have been to every single show, and like I can't even imagine that dedication, I guess you can say, to go to all those shows. Now, the one person I know that's been to every show lives in DC, so that was she even went out to California though too to see it. But
It's
it
fantastic. It's a great work of art.
yeah,
A lot of musicals, um, this one, it's kind of deep, makes you think. It's mysterious. There's a lot of meat on the bone, as I say.
mm,
Uh, but what we're hoping for is, for it to go to Broadway next.
yeah.
So
But what's the chances of that? Have you heard rumblings? Like, I mean, it's doing well enough that I would think they would give it a shot, right?
yeah,
But I don't know how that works.
I think that's the game plan. And so yeah, I think some things still have to fall in place for it to happen, but I think it stands a good chance.
That's
Uh,
great. Great to hear, and
yeah.
awesome for the Avett brothers. They must be so proud of it, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. And I saw it out in Berkeley,
Hmm.
and um, I saw it with Scott and Seth in DC and Bob
Oh,
and Dane.
nice.
And what I told them is that, like, it's kind of an out of body experience for all of us to see it because we're so close to the songs, and to see the songs used this way. I've also told the guys, listen, other than Scott, Seth, and Bob singing these songs from the stage, this is the highest art form of the songs
Wow.
being used.
I need to get down to see. I'm not going to
Yeah,
be
it's
able to see
great.
it in DC, but on Broadway it'll be closer to me, so I'm got to make it part of a trip sometime to get down there to see it. How many times have you seen it? Just the two
I've
times?
seen it. I've seen it now 3 times.
Okay. Is it different every time? Things
No,
change?
well, um, the little tweaks, and say that's why you do it in Berkeley. That's why you do it in DC. They kind of get the kinks out. Um,
Right.
Keep honing in on things before they go to Broadway.
And then
I've learned quite a bit about the musical world.
that's
Uh,
interesting.
yeah.
That's
Um,
so it's nothing you knew about really before, but you've learned it now.
oh, yes.
So Broadway, they're going to knock it out of the park on Broadway when they get there someday. I can't wait.
Well, I think it's the same thing as I told. There was Judd Apatow put us in touch with this distributor for May at Last,
Hmm.
and and in talking to them, this was getting May at Last in the movie theaters. I asked them, well, what's the high watermark? And they say, oh, you don't need to worry about that. That was LCD Sound System. And and but we're going to try to get you into 100 to 125 theaters, not 350 to 400.
Hmm.
And so I said, well, yeah, but I think LCD Sound System, like New York, Chicago, LA, they'll probably draw more people than the brothers. But if you get to Columbia, South Carolina, Columbus, Ohio, Huntsville, Alabama, the brothers are going to dominate.
Oh yeah.
So as soon as the fans found out about the film, and that it was going to be in theaters for one night only, um, it got up to 300, over 350 stations or cinemas.
Wow. So it did
Uh,
get up that high. Wow.
and it set it set the record for, see, these music documentaries will get into theaters for one night only,
Right.
and we had the record. I don't know if we
Unless
still
you're
have,
Taylor Swift.
yeah, I don't know if we still have the record or not, but I know we beat both Pearl Jams and
Wow.
Chris, and we had the record.
Well, that's
Anyway,
pretty cool.
that's all due to the Avett fans.
Sure. And Avid fans are unlike any other fan base I've ever seen in my
No
life.
doubt about it.
It's a great place. They are the nicest people.
Yep.
It blew me away when I started following several years ago, and it's like family. It really is.
Yeah, for
And the
sure.
band, I think the band embraces that. What do they think of the fans?
Oh yeah. I mean, yes. We're very extremely lucky. So it's
Well,
beautiful, beautiful thing.
looking forward to seeing you guys out on the road in 2024. Announcements are coming. That's exciting. Swept Away, go see that. And anything else you want to mention before we go? Because we got about a minute and a half left here.
No, I think uh that pretty much does it. I know I'm not sure how many of your listeners will be down in Mexico
A lot.
at the beach. I will be down there for sure.
Nice.
I wish that was right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's we got about 2 feet of snow the other day, so I would like to go to Mexico too right now.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. And then yeah, a lot of big shows this year. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's
Awesome.
going to be our best year yet.
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it. Ramseurrecords.net is your website. You can go check out some stuff on there. Dolph, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And I know you're feeling under the weather, so that really means that much more. Thanks
Well, I hope
again.
you feel better too. And
Yeah, thanks.
thanks for having me, and rock and roll. And let's do it again. I'll get on here again after,
Sounds
maybe after the end of this year. We'll do it again, a little recap.
sounds good. Let's do it. Let's plan on it. Thanks, Dolph. Take care.
All right, man. Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.